The U.S. President and the British Prime Minister acknowledged their differences on the issue of the recognition of a Palestinian state.
At their news conference earlier, both leaders said they want to end the war in Gaza and acknowledge the brutality of the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. Keir Starmer said he plans to recognize a Palestinian state within the context of an overall plan for peace. President Trump focused on the release of hostages.
I want an end. I want the hostages released. And I think it's going to be okay. But it has been a brutal period of time. But this has been going on for a long time. This is not something that's over the last year, 2 years. But this has been for decades and decades. But we want it to end. We have to have the hostages back immediately. That's what the people of Israel want. They want them back.
On the ground, Israeli tanks appear to be stationed on the edge of Gaza City 2 days after Israel's military announced its ground incursion into the city had begun.
Reuters is reporting that internet and phone lines have been cut across Gaza. This as Israel continues its aerial bombardment. Palestinian officials say more than 100 people were killed across Gaza in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, tens of thousands of Palestinians are heeding Israel's warning and streaming out of Gaza City any which way they can as intense international criticism mounts. Some new comments by Israel's far-right finance minister could fuel tensions as well.
Bezalel Smotrich says negotiations are currently underway to divide Gaza and describes the battered enclave as, quote, a real estate bonanza. Listen to Smotrich describe the plan in his own words.
I admit, I didn't expect this. Just so you know, it's not funny. There is a business plan. Listen to me carefully. There's a business plan set by the most professional people there is and is on President Trump's table. And how this thing turns into a real estate bonanza. I'm not kidding. It pays off. I have started negotiations with the Americans. I say this not jokingly now because I also demand. We paid a lot of money for this war, so we need to divide how we make a percentage on the land marketing later in Gaza. And now, no kidding, we've done the demolition phase, which is always the first phase of urban renewal. Now we need to build. It's much cheaper.
Right, let's bring in CNN's Jeremy Diamond, joins us live now from Jerusalem. So in that press conference between Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, and President Donald Trump, Keir Starmer talked about the importance, in his view, of recognizing a Palestinian state, but he also took time to really condemn Hamas, to condemn what happened on October 7th. The issue, of course, is the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in Gaza right now, which has led to a huge international diplomatic fallout for Israel, especially among the Europeans. Just in terms of what's happening in Gaza City right now, we know that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled, but there are still many, many thousands of people who are still trapped within Gaza City right now as this ground incursion is ongoing. What are they experiencing right now, Jeremy?
Well, indeed, while some 350,000 Palestinians are estimated to have fled Gaza City already, there are many hundreds of thousands more who still remain there. Keep in mind, the UN last month said that Gaza City had become home to some 1 million people approximately, and so you can easily do the math there and understand what a large population still remains there. Now, the Israeli military has been urging people to leave the city, and they say that it is in order to get civilians out of harm's way, as this very large Israeli force of some 20,000 Israeli ground forces is set to carry out attacks in Gaza City, fighting against what they say is a Hamas force estimated at just 2,000 to 3,000 fighters. And so when you see what is happening with displaced people in Gaza, that is why you are also hearing these accusations that Israel is carrying out the mass forced displacement of the population, squeezing them into a smaller and smaller area of the Gaza Strip. And then I think you really can't uncouple that from the comments that we are hearing now from Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's far-right finance minister, who we have seen have considerable influence over the decisions that this government has made, including arguing against any ceasefire negotiations and instead advocating for the very type of military offensive where they will conquer Gaza City but also occupy Gaza City for the indefinite future. And then, so when you hear Smotrich, in light of Palestinians being forced out of this major city in Gaza, before the powder is even dry, talking about a real estate opportunity here, a quote-unquote bonanza, those comments are very important to try and understanding the motivations of at least his right-wing faction of this Israeli government, and perhaps ultimately, as we have been watching things going in this very same direction, perhaps ultimately the motivations of the Israeli government itself.
I have to say, it is really notable that President Trump, who rarely shows such deep emotion as he has consistently for the Israeli hostages, did this once again today when he was standing side by side with the Prime Minister in a way that I think many Israelis say their own Prime Minister doesn't. But he clearly has been affected by his meetings with the hostage families and some of the carnage that he saw after October 7th. Jeremy, there's more news to report as well. What more can you tell us about 2 Israelis who were killed after a gunman, the IDF saying this was a Jordanian assailant opening fire on the crossing between the West Bank and Jordan?
Yeah, this is the Allenby Bridge, which is a crossing between Jordan and the West Bank with Israeli security control at that crossing. According to the Israeli military, as well as Magen David Adom, Israel's paramedic rescue service, they say that a Jordanian truck driver who was driving a humanitarian aid truck through that crossing destined for Gaza, that this individual opened fire on individuals who were at this crossing. 2 men were killed, according to Magen David Adom. It is not clear yet what the identities of those 2 men were, whether or not they were soldiers, but security forces on the scene returned fire, killing that gunman. There's still some uncertainty about the nationality of the truck driver turned gunman here. The Israeli military is describing this as a terrorist attack. It is not the first time that we have seen such attacks take place at the Allenby crossing. Last year, 3 Israeli employees of the Israeli Airports Authority, which runs this crossing, were killed after a Jordanian citizen opened fire near that very same location.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, thank you. Appreciate it.